Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'll be reviewing my Giant 2020 TCR Advanced 2 KOM Edition road bike after 10,000 kilometers. Yes, you've heard me correctly. I've ridden 10,000 kilometers on this bike, and now it's finally time to give you guys my thoughts after riding 10,000 kilometers. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So I mentioned this previously in the last review I did at 5,000 kilometers on this bike, is that a majority of all my riding so far has been on the trainer. However, luckily 2 days ago the weather was amazing here in Toronto, Canada, and I was able to give it a good long ride. It was 100 kilometers for 3 hours. I'll pull up the Strava stats to show you guys, but I had everything from hills, from descending, from cornering, from tailwinds on flats. So I've had a pretty good experience. Yet again, I touched up with this yet again on my last video, is that this frame, the 2020 frame, is the same frame that they've been using since 2016, and I've already ridden a TCR SL for the previous season. So in terms of frame geometry, nothing has really changed. I will be making a video on my channel comparing this TCR, the TCR Advanced 2 KOM Edition 2020 versus the 2021 edition. So if you guys are interested in that, I suggest you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you guys are a new viewer, I highly suggest you like the video also and subscribe to the channel. The growth of this channel is so insane. We are growing so much, and that just shows that a lot of people that follow on these videos are very interested to see better content. And what I mean by that is that with the more support of this channel, we'll eventually get these bikes in hand and really give them thorough testing. Like I said, the fact that I can easily do a 100-kilometer ride and give you guys a thorough review of actually riding the bike rather than just talking about the bike or just riding around the block. The goal of this channel is to give you guys real experience, right? So I'll show you even on Strava. I'm roughly riding anywhere between 550 kilometers to 600 kilometers average weekly. So yet again, if I'm getting products, if I'm getting bikes in the future, you guys will get real riding experience. That's the whole goal. I want you guys to get the best content possible, and that can only happen with the support. So I appreciate you listening to the little rant, but it's super important just because, I feel like there's a very big lack of that on YouTube in terms of cycling content. So I really want to fill that void and give you guys the best content. So if you guys could do that, greatly appreciate it. But enough of the chit chat, let's get right into this bike. So we are currently on the Giant USA website, and the TCR Advanced 2 KOM Edition 2020 is going for $2,050 USD. Now the reason why they call it the KOM Edition or the KOM is because it has a compact crank, which is a 50-34, so 50 teeth as the big ring and 34 in the small, and on the back it's 11-34, meaning the smallest cog is an 11-tooth cog and the biggest is a 34-tooth cog. And why that's so nice is because if you are a beginner cyclist or someone that has a lot of hills, definitely you will enjoy this gear ratio because it will make it easier to spin. And if you know anything about spinning and in terms of being efficient, being able to pedal at a smoother cadence will help you just alleviate a lot of the stress and a lot of the tension that can build up if you're pushing a big gear. Now for me, someone that's trying to improve as a racer and improve my fitness to the point where I'm getting really strong, I do find at some points having the compact crank is sometimes difficult. Like when I was in the tailwind and pushing around I would say 45-50 kilometers, I could start feeling it kind of spin out. But then again, I've already touched upon this. You're not going to get dropped, especially if you know how to shelter in a draft and whatnot. It's on the end of the world. And yet again, by the time you're pushing that average in a race or even a group ride, most likely you will probably get a semi-compact. So it's not the end of the world. Just wanted to touch up on that. But for the majority of people that are buying this bike, you're going to either be a beginner racer or someone that's just looking for recreational riding, but somewhat serious, someone that's is hopefully wanting to join a club. So the gear ratio is just perfect. I just want to put that out there because if you are someone like me that was using this kind of like as a budget race bike, the compact can be a little tricky at certain points, but not the end of the world. Like I said, it was like for a split second, but you're not going to get dropped. Now, other than that, just in general, I love the color scheme. It has it's like a charcoal gunmetal, so it looks really nice. I'll show a picture of me on the bike actually in a couple seconds. But the frame geometry, I don't want to give a big rant because we want to talk about this bike in specific. But if you guys know anything about the TCR, it's basically a revolutionized frame. It's the total compact race geometry, so it's amazing. There's the TCR is what the modern day road bike is made after. I know I'm like stumbling for words, but when you talk about the TCR, it just brings so much emotion because it's really a revolutionized bike that majority of all road bikes are actually designed after. So enough with drooling over the TCR. Let's get into the bike. So I like the bike myself just because for the price you're getting a race ready geometry, snappy, accelerating bike that can handle everything from flats. It can hold itself with aero bikes. You're not going to get dropped. Like, it's very good on flats. It really excels. Where I feel like it excels is moderate hilly sections. So in my area where I'm located, there's a lot of moderate rolling flats, meaning that you climb for about 2 minutes and then you descend. It's a little bit flat and then you climb again. So it's a very like snappy feeling where it will accelerate up hills, but it also carry its own downhill. So it's really nice. Yet again, this frame, especially the 2016 one that we're looking at, the 2020, which is still modeled after, is the same geometry that Tom Dumoulin won the Giro d'Italia, which is a world tour stage race, kind of like the Tour de France, but in Italy. So the fact that this frame geometry can win, then again, it's the rider also. I'm just saying, like, it's proven itself that it can handle, the demands of world professional races. So yet again, if you're getting that experience, obviously you're not getting the same, carbon layout in terms of lightness or maybe stiffness, but for 2050 USD, you're getting pretty much, I would say, 90% of that experience. So I really like it for myself, the type of riding that I do. I've already mentioned this on my channel. I've talked about aero bikes, race bikes, beginner bikes. The TCR, I feel like, checks off all that for the all-around bike. So I would say it's aggressive, but not that aggressive, right? Like, it's not like you don't have a negative stem. The stem isn't slammed. So I'll show you, if I have my picture up right now, you can see my stem isn't slammed. Then again, we have the whole situation where, I don't really want to go to the bike shop if I don't have to. So, having it, not slammed, I do want to slam the stem just for the aero benefits. And because if I am going to be racing on it, I want that performance boost. But, not having it slammed, it's not the end of the world, and it's still super comfortable. So a lot of times I feel like people get kind of, an endurance bike is an endurance bike, but also I find the TCR, especially from what I've ridden, it's very good all-around bike. Then again, I've had people that have purchased the TCR and they're not racing, they're just looking for fitness. And as long as they didn't slam it and the stem was at the proper angle, meaning that it wasn't flipped, it was like at the best angle that keeps you upright, they were more than comfortable. So I just want to reiterate that is because, if you want a bike that you can grow into, especially if you know what, so I always tell this, is that depending on what type of riding you're doing, it can be kind of tricky figuring out what actual discipline of cycling you're doing. So, there's people that come and originally they want a bike that, they can do some rides on the weekend. But then again, that weekend turns into group rides. They join a club and they get into some racing or they get into some fast group rides. And if they get steered into maybe an endurance bike, they might want to upgrade because they end up eventually trying a race bike that's just a little bit snappier and they get that added performance. So it's very important to figure out what you want to do, I would say 1 season, 2 seasons down the line. And at this price range, and because of the geometry, you're not limited. It's not an aero bike. It's not like a super, super dedicated race bike where like you're going to be at an uncomfortable position. I always say this all the time. The biggest factors in terms of comfort is fit and also just position on the bike. So that means, if you're not riding often, you're going to feel discomfort. When I started riding consistently again, you get discomfort. It's normal. I touched up on this at the beginning of the video. I finally took the bike outside for a 100-kilometer ride. And yeah, riding 100 kilometers indoors versus outside is totally different. You're engaging against gravity, you're switching positions that you might not be engaging on the trainer as often. So my body, has little aches and tweaks, but over time that will subside just like it subsided on the trainer. So I like to always talk in these videos about the mindset behind why I think certain ways, and that's very important because a lot of times people are just going to talk about the bike and they're just going to expect you, oh, yep, it has this, okay, it's a good bike. But I want you guys to really understand the thought process behind it so you can make an informed purchase. Other than that, like, that's about the frame. I love the frame. I have no complaints about the frame. The seat post, super comfortable, and that ties into the wheels. So the wheels are aluminum, so they are a little bit heavier. I might make a thorough review on this. So the wheels are not as light as carbon wheels or some higher grade aluminum wheels, But the tires that actually come on these, they're the Giant, they're pronounced Giant Gavia Course AC1 tubeless tires 25, and they're tubeless. So I've been running these at 90 psi, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a compliant, good ride. And I'm really excited for the summer because I still have carbon clincher rims that are normal tube. I want to compare them to see if I do notice a significant difference. But in terms of tubeless, I find that the ride quality is so compliant. I really enjoyed it. I had no problems. And the other thing is that the Gavia AC1 tires, usually stock tires are pretty crap, right? Like they don't corner that good. They don't really feel that good. But these tires, I actually don't really necessarily have a problem with them. They really held up fine. Other than that, the braking, this is a rim brake bike, so that leads me into this point, is that, I talk about this all the time, is that yes, disc is the main thing. That's where road bikes are going into the future. Eventually, most likely, I myself will get a disc brake bike, but that's primarily because I want to get into having a bike that can do a little bit of off-road. So I'll actually touch up on this because this is a 10,000 kilometer review on the bike. So I'll give you guys some first-hand experience. So I was riding 2 days ago, and I was riding with my TCR Advanced 2 KOM, this exact bike, and my Garmin actually took me to a gravel road, and I was like, nah, that's a little too rough, right? So I was like, nah, I have a gravel / cyclocross bike for this type of terrain. So I went down the road, and I was trying to, ride parallel to the gravel road, so eventually I could come back onto the route. And I ended up getting to this road that kind of trolled me, and it started off as a paved road and then turned into a gravel road, but it was packed gravel. So it was like packed clay dirt. So it was super rideable. It was not like rocky. There were some sections that had like some pebbles, but it was rideable. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to keep riding and try to ride parallel. I'll just ride it and see how it goes. And it was fine. Then again, I felt kind of sketched out by it because these are slick tires. They don't have any real grip. So I was going around 24 kilometers an hour, so nothing crazy fast. But the bike handled amazing. Like it was doable. It wasn't terrible. And that brings me to my point, is that if I had a carbon, if I had a TCR or whatever bike in the future I plan on having that is disc, having I'd probably run a little bit wider tires, maybe a 28 or even 30. And if I run into that, it wouldn't be a problem because it'd be wide enough that I wouldn't worry. And that's why disc is nice. However, the reason why I'm bringing that up is having a rim brake bike in 2020, it's because of the price, right? I've already touched up on this. You're looking at a difference of around $400, give or take, between the rim brake model and the disc brake model. And unless you really need that extra performance, or you really do plan on doing some multi-purpose riding, if you want to save $400, maybe get a $200 power meter or a used, or just upgrade your cycling, it can go a long way. So the fact that Giant is still giving the TCR Advanced 2 in a rim brake model, I find it super important because other reason is because of the actual weight savings. So there is a pretty significant weight savings. Then again, I always say the best weight savings you can make is on yourself. However, if you don't want the disc brakes because you want to save weight and you don't want to spend more money, the rim brake version is more than enough. Like I said, I've ridden it 2 days ago. I've done some fast descents. It brakes fine. The Tour de France has still been on a rim brake bike as of 2019. So rim brakes still perform. Now, in terms of modulation and all that stuff, yes, disc performs better, but like I said, in road cycling specifically, you shouldn't be braking that often. In mountain biking, cyclocross, not even gravel riding or racing, you really brake that often, but it's more mountain biking where you have to make quick stops and turns, where in road cycling and gravel riding, you should be able to gauge your speed, right? Even in crit racing, you don't hit the brakes often. You're gauging your efforts, slowing and speeding up, kind of like you're on the track. Just want to touch upon that. Now, other than that, my overall thoughts on this bike, I'll give you guys after riding 10,000 kilometers on it. I think it's one of the best bikes in terms of the price, in terms of what you get. You get a full 105 group set, including the crank. Now, I know a lot of times people say, like there's bikes that are a little bit more expensive and they change out the crank from a 105 to maybe a cheaper Praxis or whatever crank. The fact that this comes with a 105, it's just super nice. Like, it's a full, complete 105 bike. And I feel like this bike is basically For majority of cyclists, the most that they would need, the only thing I would suggest is if Giant did eventually make a single-sided power meter version that would be like around 2300, then I'd be pretty happy with that, because with a lot of cyclists, yet again, I'm going to make a full video on this. I just want to touch upon this now. If you guys are interested, you can listen. If not, that's basically my review on the bike. It's an amazing bike for the price. You get a race snap-you-like feel, tubeless tires, full 105, super comfortable, super stiff where it needs to be, climbs great, accelerates great, descends great. There will be a thorough outdoor video when the weather gets better. There's about 2 more weeks in Canada of crappy weather. So bear with me. 2 days ago when I actually rode, the whole idea was not to like film. It was really just to get a solid ride in. But like I said, 100 kilometers, not hard for me to get in. So that content will be coming most likely end of May, early June. But this gets me into my next point. Is just, this bike is amazing. It'll get you riding. It'll get you, if you use it every day, you should accelerate as a cyclist. But I would like to see a power meter, a single-sided power meter, and eventually the price will come down for power meters in general, right? Like the fact that Giant has bikes that do come with dual-sided power meters for around $4,000 with carbon rims and a full carbon, like that's crazy, right? But the reason why I'm so excited for that is because, a lot of people, and me included, it's only as of recently, within I would say 5 years, people really understanding how power can, triple your fitness on the bike. So, I'll just give you guys my personal take. When I started back into structured training as of December, January, so about 5 months, I've went from like 260 watts FTP to almost, I would say, 320, 325. So that's all because of structured training. Now, I could have ridden 100 kilometers every day at zone 2, but what you have to understand is it's not length and it's not kilometers. It's about intensity. So, there's people that ride 200 kilometers a week versus, let's say, even me that rides 500 kilometers, and they can actually be just as fit as me, because if all their rides are intensity, short and really hard, they can simulate, give or take, the same effort that I do. The only thing that would be like comfort and cardiovascular in terms of long distance rides. So you can't beat around. You can't not do long distance rides. Like eventually your body has to experience a 5-6 hour ride. But in terms of intensity, though holding a specific effort, you actually have to train yourself to do that. So I'm only bringing this up because I would like to see Giant maybe even offer an upgrade, like a single-sided power meter for $200-300. That'd be amazing, because I feel like at this price range, it's the power meter that's going to make the best difference in terms of your performance. It's not the wheels. It's not going to be any other upgrades. It's the power meter. So I'd like to see that eventually. It's going to be a couple years until we start getting that. Then again, I feel like if the more serious you are, some people would be steered away, because at the beginning, like I said, a lot of people make silly mistakes, me included. I didn't think a power meter was smart. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I actually bought carbon rims before I bought a power meter. Silly me, and I was racing at that time. So, we've all been there. We've all made mistakes, and that's why my whole point of this channel is to give you guys my advice. So, if you are looking for a good beginner bike, I would suggest getting the TCR Advanced 2. The price, you really can't go wrong. I would say if budget is a thing, just ride as much as you can, get as much experience as you can. And I touched upon this on my other video of why you shouldn't upgrade an entry-level road bike. It's just because the value is not there. The only time I really suggest is if you can get a single-sided power meter secondhand, let's say $200, $300, then you're only really paying $2,300 USD, which is, if you didn't go for the disc one, then you basically got a power meter and you basically have a race bike just without the wheels. So I feel like that's a good upgrade. But anything future, like anything more than that, I would say just sell the bike and get a brand new one. You can watch my video. I'll leave in the description below. But other than that, 10,000 kilometers on this bike. Actually, we'll look at the Strava stats right now. We are at, so this was my 100 kilometer ride. And for the bike, TCR Advanced 2, the odometer says 10,069.2 kilometers. So I put a lot of kilometers. You can see the average speed for the ride for 100 kilometers was 31.5. Max was 55.8. So it held its own, no complaints. I could talk about the TCR all day, which I do on this channel. So if you want to see more TCR content, like the video, subscribe to the channel. But other than that, just stay tuned. The content's coming, guys. We're going to get outdoor. We're going to get a thorough, outdoor ride on this bike. And until the next one, keep on pedaling.